All right, so here we are wrapping up spring break marathon day at the movies with the latest of the dying kid romance porn. And before I get into this, I've got to ask my younger viewers, is this really a thing among the teens? I mean, I know these things go in waves. I know that for a while there we had the supernatural romance. Then we had the post-apocalyptic world set against the social hierarchy, a la that of a high school cafeteria. And it just seems like we've had a lot of these kids with rare or incurable diseases finding love. It's not that I necessarily object to it. It's just this is the kind of thing as a teacher they tell you to be on the lookout for. Do I need to alert somebody's counselor? Do we need to have a talk? All right? Because seriously, there's a lot of these fucking things. The fact that I can think of so many of them just off the top of my head is not a good sign. I mean, life is good, mostly. Okay. Yeah, like I'm the person that should be telling you that. Anyway, so 5 Feet Apart, the latest from the dying kid romance genre. I gotta say, first off, impressed. Very impressed, because anybody who knows me knows that I am cynical by nature. One of my favorite quotes is, I've lived too long to be an optimist. Maybe that's just me. So I see this, and, I'm kind of like very skeptical of it. But I'm gonna be honest, it was pretty good, and it was also very moving. Very touching, and, the problem with a film like this, with anything where you have people with a terminal illness, is that you can kind of trace the steps it's going to take. If you can't, then you need to read more or watch more or whatever, because these things usually have a very set pattern. And this film, like so many of its kind, follows that pattern fairly religiously. For instance, this is not a dying kid one, but I mean, anybody who goes into any film about Titanic thinking that it is going to end happily for any of the characters involved, I mean, come on. And the same thing here. But here's the thing. Formula is not a bad thing if the story you're telling is compelling, that rhymes, and the characters are ones that you care about. It's okay if you have cliches. Cliches are a time saver. There's a reason they're cliches. So it's okay if your film isn't, the most unpredictable film in the world, as long as the story is strong and the characters are characters that you want to love. And this film does that very well. I think this film, like so many in this genre, it worries me that this is a genre. It really does. The characters and the acting is really top notch. I said this in my Nancy Drew review. That's another rhyme. Is that I spent a lot. I've several times on this. I've had to badmouth kid actors. Well, here I've got to again praise some. Particularly Haley Lou Richardson, I believe is the actress's name. I stayed to look it up. I hope I'm remembering it right. Who plays Stella, our main character, our point of view character. Holding up. Let me rephrase without giving a lot away, because it's not my business to give away. But having known people with very bad illnesses in my life and seeing firsthand the struggles that they go through and the pain and the ups and downs and all that, I can tell you it is a difficult thing for everybody involved. And I can tell you from an acting point of view, having been an actor, that playing a character who is trying to wrestle with so much, so many feelings and so many emotions, that is daunting for a seasoned actor. And for someone so young to do it, and to do it so masterfully, I think is a real credit to her. I mean, she is the emotional center of the film. She is the main character. The whole film rests on her shoulders. They'd like to have you think it's a 50-50 thing between her and of course her love interest, but it's not. She's carrying the bulk of the weight. Not to say that he doesn't do his share. We'll talk about him in a second. But it is her story. It is her emotional story. And so therefore she has to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And she does. Absolutely beautifully. I realize I didn't say this beforehand. So for those who don't know, the story is about Stella, a girl. They don't say how old she is. She's got to be 16, 17, somewhere in there, who has this condition. I forget what it's called. They said it like 5 or 6 times, and it's something that sounds very similar, but I can't. I'm going to call it the wrong thing. But it's basically this thing where they have bacteria in their lungs, and it's causing their lungs to fail. So the thing is that you can't get within a certain distance of anyone else who has this disease, or this illness, because you could catch the bacteria from them, and it makes your bacteria even worse. So while she can touch and hug and everything other people, she can't do it with other folks who have the disease. This includes her sassy gay friend, because of course there's a sassy gay friend, and the brooding, mysterious Will, who comes into her life, because of course he's mysterious and brooding. So I guess that is a good segue into saying one of the things I didn't like about this movie. There are a lot of cliches. This is dealing with 2 cliches. This is dealing with the cliche of the dying kid romance, which again, it freaks me out that is such a thing, that there are cliches for it. And it's also dealing with the teen movie romance cliches. So of course, the other characters in her immediate sphere all kind of fall into those archetypes, and they don't do much to break out of them. Once again, just like I said with Midnight Sun last year, I feel like she is the strongest actor in the film, and the other actors are good, but I don't feel like they quite measure up to her. I feel like she's really carrying the film. And again, this is not saying bad things about the other actors. I think they are doing an incredible job, especially for people so young, portraying a lot of emotion and a lot of heavy things. But it does feel like she's a step above, And I think, again, part of that, I think, is the other characters are more locked into the archetypes. Will, the boyfriend, is somewhere between Edward Cullen and Kylo Ren. And of course he's an artist, and all, like I say, there's just a lot of cliches they got to overcome. But they do a great job. Let me tell you about probably the best scene in the movie. And it was a scene, I'm in the theater. I need a beard for these type of films. I need to find somebody like Annika or somebody who can get me in these films. I feel so creepy being a 40-year-old man in these movies with just nothing but teenage girls all around. It makes me feel creepy. But it's a scene that I don't feel like the audience, because they are so young, fully were comfortable with. So there was a lot of giggling and a lot of ha 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 ha. But I feel like it was probably the most powerful scene in the film. So Stella and Will go on a date, and they can't touch. They got to be within 5 feet of each other. And they're at the pool, and they're talking about sex, as teenagers will do. And Stella is saying that, I've never had sex, because I'd never want to show my scars to anybody, because who's going to find that sexy? And Will says, well, everything about you is sexy. And she stands up, and she takes off her dress, and is standing there, not naked, but, with, exposed with her scars and everything. And then he stands up and does the same thing. So it's this very... It is one of the most intimate scenes I have seen in a movie in a long time. And keep in mind, and this is a credit to the acting, this is a credit to the directing, this is a credit to the writing, they aren't touching. Intimacy and no touching. Of the two of them standing there, bearing their bodies with all of these battle scars, and just looking at each other. And of course, and again, the people, they're young, they don't understand, they don't understand how scary that must have been for the actors. Because I can tell you right now, again, from my experience as an actor and other people, friends of my experience, nobody likes the idea of taking their clothes off on stage, even going down to their underwear. That is, it's too exposed. And these two young kids are doing it, and it is. I can only imagine what that must have been like on set that day. That must have been so scary. But they did it, and the scene is just unbelievably powerful. It's like the best scene in the movie, bar none. It's that pivotal scene that kind of this. If I had to show a scene from this movie to somebody, say this is what this movie's about, there it is. Another really great acting job, and it's really impressive considering that she doesn't get as much screen time, and a lot of her stuff is kind of the side. I don't know the actor's name. I'm sorry. Playing their nurse, the nurse who's kind of in charge of them, and kind of the mom figure, the sassy black nurse, who looks like she's just kind of there to throw zingers and one-liners at them. And that she's also kind of given the role of, that authority figure that they have to kind of spite. She's the principal from Breakfast Club or whatnot, that, because she doesn't want them to get close because she doesn't want them to die. And of course they respect her, but they're kind of flouting her, and they're kind of, like I say, she's the principal they have to get around. And when tragedy inevitably does strike, which I don't think I'm spoiling much, but when tragedy does strike, and it strikes kind of, like dominoes, her reactions and her performance, and a lot of it is just the way she says things and the way she looks. Because there's a scene, and the camera moves real quick over her, and it's just the look on her face. And it's this look of, I've failed. I failed these kids. And that was heartbreaking to me. As a teacher, there's no worse feeling than feeling like you failed the people who you were in charge of in any way, and especially with what she had to deal with, saving their lives, and to feel like you failed. And she expresses that all without, she doesn't get a monologue, she doesn't get a big moment, it's all just very quick, and it's background stuff. I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but I'm looking at it going, oh my God, I feel for that woman so much right now. So this movie did a great job of kind of worming its way in and getting to this old cynical heart. Is it perfect? No, it is fucking not. A couple things that I gotta get into. I'm gonna try not to spoil things for you. But if I say something, spoilers, just know spoiler alerts are up. So the cliches were an issue for me, again, just because I've seen so many of these, teen movies and, dying kid movies, or just dying people movies. I kind of know the steps, and it was just kind of getting a little, okay, when everything's happy and everybody's going good and everything's all yay, I'm just sitting there going, which one of them's gonna fucking die? I know one of them's gonna fucking die, and they did, and I was like, called it. There is a moment, and I understand it from a character standpoint, but it doesn't change the fact. There is, towards the climax of the film, things happen, and Stella decides, she's just tired of everything, and she's just going to go out and, go for a walk. She wants to go see the lights. She's very Rapunzel in that way. And Will goes with her, so they leave the hospital. And while they're gone, in classic, gotta wrap everything up fashion for one of these novels or movies, a new set of lungs become available to her. And she's out of the hospital, and they're trying to get a hold of her. And she reads the text and turns it off. For reasons, whatnot, I can't imagine. And things happen and blah, blah, blah. And, so that's irresponsible. Then even more shit happens, which I won't go into. Very cliche shit that you're just like, oh, motherfucker, no. But they get into trouble due to them being sick kids out in the winter. Let's just say that. So they get them back to the hospital just in time. She's like, no, I don't want the lungs. I don't want the lungs. I'll outlive him, and I love him. And I am just sitting there thinking, bitch, not only have you and your family been waiting for these lungs for God knows how long, if they don't put them in you, they go bad, which means that some other person who could have used those lungs dies. So, bitch, I don't care who the fuck you love. You're taking these lungs if I have to jump into the goddamn movie and shove them down your fucking throat. Sorry, that was just selfishness to a whole new degree. And again, it makes sense within the character's frame of reference of being a teenager in love. And it makes sense within that frame of reference of what she had gone through previously. But it is still just one of the most the whole sequence was very selfish. And again, Rose from Titanic, selfish. How many fucking boats did she get into and then get out of to go find him after making a point of telling everybody there aren't enough boats and there isn't enough room for everybody? So that's 2 spots that she took that could have gone to somebody else. So, there's being in love and then there's being fucking selfish. And that really was hard for me. I was mad at that point. And I get that, when you've been in it for that long, it's your body and you just want certain things. I get all that. I get it all from a character standpoint. But I'm sorry, it just pissed me off. So, these are minor things, really, when we get down to the nitty-gritty of it. The only other thing I will say is that it's too long. It is way too long. I think it drags a little bit. I know they're trying to really establish this relationship, which they do, and they do very well. But I think they could have trimmed a little bit and not dragged it out so long. That's just me. But I must admit that my old cynical heart grew maybe 2 sizes that day. I felt things. I felt feelings. Yes, I can still do that. My heart is not quite the hollow, empty shell that it may seem. But yeah. So I guess, so let's wrap this up and talk about final grades. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of traffic out here tonight. Can't make a turn. All right, so we're going for a little bit further drive. Sorry. So final grade for this one. That's a hard question. That is a hard question because it's good. It's very good, and I respect it on a lot of levels. There is just something, and I don't know if it's just those little nitpicks I was talking about, or if there's something else just wriggling in the back of my head that prevents me from giving it a full-on A. I don't know why. I have no logical explanation for this. So I'm going to have to go B for this one. B+. It's very good. It's very, very good. But I'm going to say B+. And again, I do not know, and that is, again, another problem with doing these videos just kind of right on the spur of the moment. Sometimes little things that are bugging you, you can't quite put words to, or maybe it'll turn out in a week or so that maybe nothing was bugging me and it really was that good of a movie. I don't know, but that's kind of the downside. So, but I'm going to say a solid B+. It's very good. It's very touching. All the actors do good jobs, but Haley Lu Richardson does an amazing job. It's been a good day for young actors. So yeah. All right, so that was Spring Break at the movies. I kind of wish they would have come out last week so I could have spread these all out a little bit, but I had a fun day going to 3 movies at once. I don't do it often, but I had a good time doing it. I hope you had a good time watching the videos. I hope you had a wonderful spring break. Those of you who were on it, those of you who are going on it, have a happy and safe one. Back to work on Monday, but don't worry, I'm always at the movies. So, added 2 new members to the Drive Home Review family this week and saw some pretty good films. So, until next time, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.